What's up, folks? I'm Chris, your MLB writer here at Occupy Fantasy. Here with a look at the 9-game main slate here on Wednesday, June 22nd on DraftKings, FanDuel, and Yahoo. A lot of interesting options tonight, like Shohei Ohtani, the most, starting pitcher for the Angels tonight. Off the heels of his big game last night at the plate, he'll look to follow that up with a strong performance tonight on the mound against the Kansas City Royals. And we have him ranked number 1 in our model by OF Index tonight at the pitcher position, 15.4 by OF Index. Biggest favorite on the slate with a very heavy line movement in his favor. A lot of money coming in on the Angels and betting markets. So the Angels and their starting pitcher, Shohei Ohtani, our favorite way to attack this slate at starting pitcher tonight. Projects for just under 1.2 strikeouts per inning. That would actually be a very good performance tonight against the Royals, who are striking out slightly below average in recent games of the last 30 days of play in Major League Baseball. So still like Ohtani here quite a bit, and he has very good StatCast data in his recent 2 weeks of pitching outings on his side as well. Number 2 in our model, George Kirby with the Seattle Mariners. He's facing Oakland. Oakland is an offense that we like to pick on with starting pitchers. Oakland has the second fewest fantasy points at the plate per plate appearance over the last month, so they're an easy lineup to pitch against. Kirby does not walk a ton of batters. He has just a 1.05 BB9 this season. That means he's effectively averaging less than 1 walk per start. So you have an offense that's not hitting the ball particularly well. They're not generating a lot of fantasy points at the plate. And now they're facing a pitcher who isn't going to give them really any free paths on average most nights. So it seems like the Oakland Athletics will have a tough night against George Kirby. Kirby does not have a ton of strikeout upside. He averages under a strikeout per inning pitch, and that's how we have it projected here at 0.91. But Oakland does strike out ever so slightly above average, so he may see a little bit of an outlier performance for him anyway in that department if we get lucky tonight. Now, Carlos Rodon with the Giants is someone we would be jumping all over on a normal slate like this. But unfortunately for him, he is facing the red-hot Atlanta Braves. Braves are the hottest lineup in Major League Baseball over the last 30 days that is on this slate. So we got a little bit of a downgrade there based off of the quality of the opponent. The betting markets obviously agree, as they have Rodon as a slight underdog tonight. But he has the highest strikeout upside on this slate. That's due to just his own performance. He averages 1.3 strikeouts per inning over the last year's worth of his work. And he's facing Atlanta, who strikes out slightly above average. Atlanta was striking out extremely above average in recent weeks, but they've actually found their level there a little bit, and they're regressing back towards the mean league-wide. So not as strong of a matchup in that department for Rodon tonight as it might have been a week or two ago. Tariq Skubal with the Detroit Tigers facing the Red Sox. The left-handed pitcher for the Tigers is one of the best pitchers in the American League this year so far, and that's why this matchup is projected to be fairly close. He's a slight underdog in the money line because the Red Sox are a very hot lineup, so he's probably high risk only. I would characterize Rodon as probably high risk only as well, given the matchup with the Braves. Jordan Montgomery is probably my favorite value pitcher as a favorite against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay, a below average lineup as far as fantasy point production is concerned, and they strike out above average in the recent sample of 30 days worth of play at the plate, so have to like Montgomery. I like him a little bit more than Adam Wainwright, which is why I skipped over him here initially. Wainwright does pitch deep into games. Typically will go into the 7th inning. That's what he's done over the last year's worth of his work. Slight moneyline favorite against the Brewers tonight. The Brewers are a decent matchup. They're below average in fantasy point production, above average in the strikeout department, but Wainwright is not very much of a strikeout pitcher himself. He averages about 3/4 of a strikeout per inning, and that's roughly how we have it projected tonight at 0.79 strikeouts per inning. StatCast data, a little bit of a concern with Wainwright. He's giving up the 3rd worst batted ball exit velocity on this slate on average. Batted ball distance a little bit closer to the average for him. I don't see much reason on this slate to go outside of this group at the top. Outside of Eric Lauer, left-handed pitcher for the Brewers. I'm actually excluding him, and you'll see why in a moment. Now, if we reverse sort our model and we look at the worst ranked pitchers in the Occupy model tonight, Jarrod Eickhoff with the Pirates, making his 2022 season debut. This is a pitcher that we want to hammer on this slate. He has been one of the easiest pitchers for major league quality hitters to hit against over the last year. He allows an extremely outrageously high isolated slugging and weighted on base average to lefties in particular. It's about 50 plate appearances since last June. 568 isolated slugging, 595 weighted on base average allowed. Specifically to lefties. So the Cubs and their left-handed hitters especially are guys that I like this evening in the matchup with Eickhoff. Daniel Lynch, a lefty pitcher himself, facing the Angels might be interesting because he has very poor recent StatCast performance. But the Angels actually do not hit lefties very well, and we have no access to Shohei Ohtani as a hitter tonight. So maybe they won't be as high in our model as maybe we think they should upon first glance here. The Nationals against Tyler Wells, the Pirates against Keegan Thompson, Baltimore Orioles against left-handed Patrick Corbin. That's another spot we usually like to harp on with stacks. Let's see how our stacks dashboard has this first thing here on Wednesday morning. St. Louis Cardinals, number one stack in our model. That is why I skipped over Eric Lauer, the left-handed pitcher for the Brewers tonight. Number one by OF Index, number one by isolated slugging, modest implied team total, modest weighted on base average. Those numbers are where they are because Lauer's a pretty good pitcher. There's no getting around that. He's performed pretty well this year overall. We just think that the Cardinals have a really good chance of leveraging their strengths against a pitcher of his handedness type. Cardinals hitters that hit lefties extremely well that we are all in on based off of this ranking. Paul Goldschmidt with an elite 557 weighted on base average against lefties over the last year's worth of his plate appearances, 429 weighted on base average. Nolan Arenado, elite numbers. Albert Pujols, who we think will start tonight. If you're playing on FanDuel, can get a couple of first basemen in your lineup. We only play him against lefties. 238 isolated slugging, 355 weighted on base average against lefties for him, so we like that. Dylan Carlson, a really good play against left-handed pitchers for the Cardinals. So I think that's probably why we're favoring the Cardinals in high risk tonight, specifically. Now, the Cubs would be my favorite all-around stack against Eichhoff, given how poor he's performed at the Major League Baseball level over the last year's worth of his work. Number two by OF Index, number two by isolated slugging, number two by weighted on base average, modest implied team total. Suspect that we get the Cubs a little lower on than they should be in this spot against Eichhoff this evening. The Giants facing Atlanta Braves starter Charlie Morton are in a really tough spot. That's why the weighted on base average, actually one of the lowest projections on the main slate. I'm probably not going to do that here. Baltimore against Patrick Corbin, I would be interested in. Third highest weighted on base average, third highest implied team total. It does seem like markets will be interested in that also. The Mariners, they have a low or a modest OF Index ranking on this slate for us, have the highest weighted on base average projection against Oakland right-handed starter Paul Blackburn. So Seattle may be a place we can go. That's a little off the beaten path tonight. With a stack, the Angels, number one by implied team total in that matchup with Daniel Lynch. But our model thinks we should go underweight on them in MME and probably avoid them altogether if you're a single entry type player. I think I'm going to lean on that side and steer clear of Angels hitters tonight. Our model, I like Cubs hitters, as I mentioned, against Eichhoff. We have Ian Happ is a switch hitter. He'll hit lefty against Eichhoff. Jason Hayward, Rafael Ortega. These guys will be the lefties in the lineup against him tonight. Obviously, we like Patrick Wisdom, Christopher Morel. Wilson Contreras is the highest ranked catcher on our model tonight. This is the team I'm personally most interested in playing based off the combination of matchup and salary flexibility that it gives us. We'll look at the Cardinals, our number one offense in the matchup with Eric Lauer. Some of the guys I already talked about with good splits against left-handed pitchers. Obviously, Tommy Edman, a leadoff hitter with some stolen base upside. We're going to like that. That's probably the only other guy I didn't mention earlier that I would consider here. Really good options near the top of the Cardinals lineup to consider in the stack this evening. San Francisco Giants against Morton. Peterson, Belt lead this stack by far with 8s for OF indices. The rest of these guys a little bit closer to the average. But strong options with, looks like 7 hitters with at least a 4 by OF index. We consider a 4 to be a good score here. Wilmer Flores, don't ignore him. Very good batted ball data recently, even though he's near the bottom of this stack. Now over on DraftKings, I have Ohtani, my favorite pitcher, slotted into my lineup. 5 Cubs hitters that I like that have high upside. 59.75 per player remaining. I think there's plenty of directions we can go with this kind of salary left. That means we could just pay for the strikeout upside of Rodon, still have plenty of salary flexibility for our final 3 spots. We can also just trust our model and go with our second highest ranked pitcher in the model this evening, George Kirby, and have extreme flexibility with our final 3 slots at hitter. I think this is the way to go tonight. It's probably the way that I'm going to go in my single entry stuff. Over on FanDuel, same idea. We have Ohtani pitcher, 4 high upside, Cubs bats, 31.50 per player remaining. Plenty of salary to find another primary stack or another direction that you want to go here on this slate. Should be a fun one tonight. Keep an eye on some weather. There are a couple of weather spots. We will cover all of that. We will have final updates in the Daily Plug at OccupyFantasy.com by about 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's when you can check that out. You want to talk about MLB DFS up until then, you can consider joining our Discord. There's a link to do so below the description of every video that we post on this channel. We'd love to see you in there asking about not just main slates, other slates, any other questions you have about how to attack MLB DFS. We're happy to talk about it all day in there. Good luck tonight, and we'll talk to you tomorrow for more MLB DFS.